There can be only one.
Let's go back to 1986 and land on the cult classic film Highlander. Well, for the fans, the movie feels nothing short of a dream. Many to this day consider it an all-timer, mainly because of its wild mix, which consisted of ancient myths, electric guitar solos, and crazy warriors who fought in the rainy streets of New York. But what if I told you that the movie you know and very much love is just a piece of a larger puzzle? Yes, you heard that right. The original vision was cut down and scenes were lost due to duration constraints and studio decisions. As a result, some storylines vanished or were compromised as well. A few of these deleted scenes would have completely shifted the film's tone, including one particularly legendary sequence that might have made the entire universe feel weirder. And this is what today's video is all about. We're going to piece together these rejected fragments, list them down for you, and together, let's imagine what Highlander could have become if these moments were greenlit to be in the final cut. So, without any further ado, here is every deleted scene from the Highlander. Here we go!
You're not coming back.
The lost World War II origin of Rachel. Let's kick things off with one of the most important deletions from the film. The scene was from the World War II flashback, which showed how Connor met his secretary, Rachel. Here in this sequence, Connor can be seen rescuing Rachel, the young Jewish girl, from the horrors of the Holocaust tragedy. He then comforts her with the iconic line where he says, "It's a kind of magic." This little interaction, while brief, is the very foundation of the entire relationship between the two. It shows that she is a living entity of his long history. Instead of just being his employee, she is a person he saved and someone who has chosen to stand by him for decades. This scene matters because without its inclusion, their quiet yet deep bond in the 1985 storyline would feel confusing and definitely not as nuanced. This is one of those major what-if moments from a movie that are kept alive in discussions by fans. But deciding to leave this scene in the film would have helped transform Rachel from being a mere background character into an emotional anchor. We would even understand the weight of her loyalty as well as the depth of Connor's compassion. It would have even made their final goodbye just before the battle with the Kurgan truly heartbreaking. There are a few theories as to why this scene was cut from the US theatrical release, some of which suggest that it was because the distributors felt the American audiences wouldn't connect with a Holocaust-set flashback, while others say that they deemed it unnecessary for the main action. But the final decision was one that the director, Russell Mulcahy, vocally opposed. The zoo scene that fixed a plot hole. The cuts that now feel crucial to the greater storyline take us to a zoo scene between Connor and Brenda. They talk among the animals, and here we have Connor explaining to Brenda that he cannot commit to a relationship after the death of his wife centuries ago. Now, this is important to Connor's character arc, as it shows the walls he has built to protect himself from loss. But interestingly, the real magic of this scene lies in the background. Lurking cautiously right behind them is the Kurgan. He is seen stalking them, and this little addition matters quite a lot because it fixes a very obvious plot hole, which was later pointed out by the fans. In the cut released in the US theaters, the Kurgan somehow finds Brenda's apartment later on in the film, but this move was shown with no explanation at all. Meanwhile, this scene gives us an idea that he was actively tracking them, and therefore the apartment scene would have made sense. If they kept this scene in the final cut, it would have made the Kurgan an even more sinister threat, as a hunter closing in. And of course, it would have solved a logical problem that puzzled fans for years. This was probably cut for pacing, with the intention of tightening the narrative. This was a quiet character moment that slowly built to the next action sequence, but having this deleted just weakened the overall cohesion of the story. The darker Highlander we almost got. Next, we have the case of the bizarre European humor. Yes, I'm talking about the moment the Kurgan licks a priest's hand in the church. It is shocking, as it is a grotesque bit that highlights the Kurgan's key character trait and his total disregard for all things sacred, along with his animalistic nature. This kinda matters because it adds an unsettling layer of menace to this villain, which makes us feel so beyond his strength and loud threats. Having scenes like this in the final edit, along with the scene in which the duelist Bassett shoots his annoying assistant in the backside, both of those would have given the film a darker tone and a more eccentric flavor. It would have felt more like a fractured fairy tale for adults. These were little moments that were filmed but were unfortunately cut. It is reported that the studio believed the American audiences wouldn't find themselves appreciating or even understanding this kind of dark physical comedy. They ended up just smoothing out the rougher edges of the film to allow for a broader release. Extended fights and lost character moments. Then, some cuts simply removed the cool moments from the action in the movie. There was an extended cut of the car park fight with the immortal Fassel, which featured Fassel performing backward cartwheels right as he was fleeing, and it was truly impressive to watch that one. Another bit that missed the final cut showed Connor's girlfriend in the Scottish Highlands as she was giving him flowers for the sake of luck right before his first duel. Now, these scenes matter because they added a slice of flair to the already entertaining battles as well as the sweetness to the romantic sequences. Had they kept these two, it would have made the flashbacks and the fights feel even more dynamic. The explanation for omitting these two seems to be mainly about texture, but these are the kind of details that enhance the story on multiple viewings. The duel between Kurgan and Yong-dal Kim. Now, on to what many consider the most famous among all the lost scenes. Yes, I'm talking about none other than the complete duel between the Kurgan and another immortal named Yong-dal Kim. The story behind this scene is that it didn't just endure getting skipped from the movie, but in fact, its footage was reportedly destroyed in a fire, quite literally. About the scene, it took place in a modern office building. Kim, who is a security guard weary of immortality after 400 years, goes on to fight the Kurgan with a Japanese two-sword style. Eventually, he gives up and ends up kneeling while asking for death because he was tired of living. As a result, the Kurgan grants him this wish and takes his head. Well, this scene matters, and it matters immensely. It expands upon the rules and philosophy of immortality, while also showing an example of an immortal who isn't a warrior at heart, but someone who is just exhausted. This gives a tragic shade to the film that it otherwise seems to lack. This could have been a major set piece which showed the Kurgan's power against a skilled opponent. It could have also added gravity to the saying, "There can be only one." Along with that, it would have also explained a throwaway line from a cop about New Jersey. But nevertheless, this cut now seems to feel like a complete loss, and much rather a tragedy for the fans. The extended final battle we never saw. While we're on the topic of battle scenes getting deleted from the theatrical edit, there are also sequences in the final battle between Connor and the Kurgan that were longer than what you saw as per the original cut. The extended scene included combat and even had the Kurgan diving into water and Connor fighting him beneath the surface. This felt like a massive loss because the climax is the ultimate payoff for the entire film, and therefore a longer and in this case a more brutal struggle just raises the stakes even more, along with making Connor's eventual victory feel hard-earned. They wanted to keep things more straightforward and tightened in the finale, and also because they might have felt the underwater scenes would be difficult to edit properly. All of this led them to rely on a simple, satisfying conclusion. Now, beyond the deleted scenes, there are also some really fascinating alternate versions and tiny changes to the original commercially released US cut. In some editions, as Connor lies on the floor after winning the prize, he whispers, "I want to go home." This is a line missing from other cuts. And then during the cliff jump, some versions have Ramirez yelling, "McLeod, this is the quickening," whereas others just have screams in here. Then, when Connor sinks to the riverbed, different dubs have him say, "I'm alive," or even, "I can breathe," followed by, "I'll split you in half." Alternate versions and the scenes that never made it. All of these minute differences feel worthy because they change the subtle tone of key moments. We begin to wonder if Connor feels triumphant or if he is melancholic. Is the quickening some sort of a lesson or a wild experience? These variations also show how editing as well as dubbing have the ability to shape and reshape a character's journey. But the whole landscape of different releases is a real puzzle to understand. The US theatrical version is the shortest one among them all. It seems to be missing about 8 minutes of the film. Meanwhile, the European version and the later released director's cut restored most scenes, but funnily, they aren't identical. The European cut has a crowd chanting, "Kill the MacLeod," early on in the film, which the US director's cut has skipped. Then the director's cut added whooshing sounds when immortals sensed each other, and this was a cue that wasn't there in the original. Now, for years, DVD and Blu-ray labels were inconsistent, and often called the international cut as the director's cut, even though the later Blu-rays finally restored the original sound design. There was even a heavily cut PG-13 version for US theaters, as well as really butchered TV edits for channels like Sci-Fi, which removed the violence along with huge story chunks like the "Who Wants to Live Forever" montage. This quite literally crippled the core emotions of watching the film. Then we have certain scenes that were scripted or shot, but they were never finished. There was a nightclub scene that would have shown Connor and his friend Castigear having a final night out, and they are joined by Detective Bedso. The three build a connection between the immortal and mortal worlds. Then, not to forget, a longer ending which showed Rachel burning down Connor's antique shop after his victory, and then meeting with Detective Moran as she shows him an old photo of herself with Connor as a child, all while offering to explain everything. This feels key now in terms of showcasing Rachel finally stepping out of the shadows to find her own life. Finally, there was also a scene where Connor showed Brenda his katana after their intimate moment. This one feels like a little moment of vulnerability in the film. All in all, these lost possibilities collectively and individually matter because they show a film even more interested in the consequences of immortality and the relationships between characters. The What If chapter of the Highlander now seems to shape itself as a film with a richer and more novel-like ending, along with having deeper arcs for the side characters. Unfortunately, they were cut due to narrative focus, pacing, and time constraints, with the aim to continue keeping the story centered in and around Connor's duel with the Kurgan. And that's our video for today. We hope you had a fascinating time as we explored the deleted and alternate scenes of the 1986 cult classic film, The Highlander. Looking back as we rolled back to notice what all was left out, it felt like looking at a ghost or a different movie altogether. We love The Highlander, but there would have been an added layer of magic had these scenes mentioned today not been skipped in the final cut, that probably would have made you and I admire the film even more so. Now, as always, if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and let us know what your favorite deleted scene from The Highlander is, down in the comments section below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Marvelous Videos for more such content. Until next time, take care and ciao!